creators, it's Claire from Springworth, and it is a new project time, and I'm going to take on turning this, which is an artwork I created in ProCreate, into an embroidery. And this is going to be my gold work entry to the Sydney Royal Easter Show. So today is Christmas Day, and I need to have this finished by kind of middle end of March, so I have a heap of time yet, but there are lots of things I've not quite yet decided. How many strands of thread I'm going to use, how dense I'm going to do the kind of blackwork. Those are the main things, but they're two big things. So the design is a little bit Memphis inspired in the color choices. They are quite bold. So I started with the digital versions and went through and picked out these. So there's like a lovely deep purple, then a real, candy floss pink, a lilac, and then this super bright orange, a classic kind of red, and then this minty green. So very poppy colours to go with that Memphis theme, and I really do think these are going to work really well together. My base canvas is kind of a beige, creamy beige, so I shouldn't lose too much of the colours when I put them onto the fabric. It is quite a fine grid as usual, which is what I love to work with, and this kind of finger protector, canvas protector, I made just really quickly with a running stitch and then pulled tight on both sides just to keep this nice and clean, because I'm considering taking this camping, which I did with last year's Royal Easter Show entry, but at the end it did look a little bit dirty just at the edges, which didn't give me much leverage to work with. My intention for this is for it to be a gold work piece. Eventually I would actually really love this to be a wall hanging. I'm not quite sure how I get from embroidery piece to wall hanging and exactly what the conditions on the Royal Easter Show entry are, so those are also somewhat unknown, so you will have to join the journey to see how this progresses. And just to say, the white bits on here are intended to be negative space, so I'm not planning on filling these in. I'm not planning on filling obviously any of the edges. I designed this in ProCreate, and then I have made this into a pattern in my stitching app called MobiStitch, which I recommend, not sponsored. I do pay for it, but it is very good, and I find it really helpful for planning what I'm going to be stitching, both kind of block colours and for outlines in the kind of Sashiko blackwork style. All that said, let's get stitching. Then is how far I got with the lilac. I think this is going to end up quite a lot bigger than I was first thinking, so it's probably only about halfway across, but decent progress for the time I've had today. Well overdue update then. It is the start of March and the clock is ticking on getting this project finished, and I'm pretty sure I haven't filmed any content since December. And I'm also fairly sure I haven't done any work on this since January. So I need to get this finished. It has to be ready for the release show at the end of March. Made quite a lot of progress, and I have decided somewhere around the bottom of this purple section that I'm actually going to put an outline around these, because this is how the pattern would work on the circle, but because of the gaps in the pattern itself, it just doesn't have that roundness that I am thinking about. If I get time, I may also go through just with a matching cream and fill in some of these sections. I think that would be welcomed at the show, but I do also still have to finish all the red, all the orange background, and mount this or finish this in some way, whether that's on a cardboard or something. But I have all the purples, or almost all the purples. There's a tiny section where I ran out of thread. Pink and green done, and I did make a start on the red, so 4 1/5 out of 5 maybe. So let's see how much time I can dedicate to this to get it finished by the end of March. I did get my show pack, so there is no backing out now because it is set. Let's go. I'm very excited to get started on the orange, and I am starting with the part that adjoins another colour because I've got the motivation. So I'll do some of the difficult bits and get to an outline, and then I'll start filling in when I just want to do it, in front of the TV or just in total relaxation mode. And I'm going to try, and I just failed here, I'm going to try to make sure I cross these the same as I cross the red threads, and I just kind of went from here. So I went this way, and now on the top stitch I went this way. So go ahead and pull that out, because it really does make a difference to how visually it looks. Now you don't have to go all the way back and take out the original stitch. If you are doing cross stitch, let me show you a little cheat if you've not figured this one out yet. What you can do is you can actually just run your stitch underneath the previous. Now just be careful that you're not pulling the stitch out and that you do get it all the way under. This one is being trickier. And then I do like to do it in two moves. I come underneath first, and then I will go down through the canvas or fabric. And now you have 2 stitches with the right direction on top. I'm going to head down the canvas just to avoid this, which is my how to make the crosses guide. And you can see there's a light purple underneath and then a darker purple, actually 2 darker purples on top.
just to really quickly give me that reference as to which way I'm supposed to be crossing. And this is a real time saver. As you spin your canvas around or you're just not thinking about it, this is a really good way to reference it. Make it nice and big and make it nice and obvious, so you're not having to think about which way to make your crosses in cross stitch or in line work. I've not yet figured out quite from this pattern what the best kind of stitch sequence is. I have a lot of it to do, so hopefully by the end I have it down. See, I feel like there I've gone one too far. And I think the answer might be to do rows of them, one after the other, maybe even a half row, because with the circular pattern you do end up back in your starting point. So that's not always the best. And I'm going to have to be very careful here when I'm freestyling to make sure that I am going to go underneath those crosses, because I'm not necessarily thinking about the cross when I put the first stitch down. So the little trick's going to be a lifesaver. I've had a solid few stitching days to let me bring you up to speed. So I've had a few different attempts at how I was going to manage this orange, whether I was going to go like in the full pattern, I was going to kind of diagonal to try to make sure I got the crosses the right way, and it just got really confusing. So what I ended up doing was breaking it down into dashes and crosses. And kind of what you see here is the horizontal layer of that, and then when I come back with the vertical layer, it fills it in. So sometimes it's worth having a look to see if you can break down a pattern into components in a way that you just don't have to think about what you're putting down. Because like to think about making a dash every single box is really easy. The other thing I did, so I finished out the red, and I have decided to outline each of the ships. I wasn't sure if I was actually going to do that when I first put the stitches down. That was kind of a mistake, because now I've got some areas where I've had to take stitches out. So you can see in this purple here, like if you look at that curve of the pink, which I have edited, you can kind of see it starts to just come off here. So these stitches, I actually have to take them out in order to achieve that curve here. So in hindsight, maybe I could have stayed a little bit further away from the edge when I was stitching and then gone back around, but I know different now to what I did then. So I've outlined the green, I've outlined the pink, I've outlined the dark purple. That one was the easiest because it's kind of the most crisp. So now I just have to finish the orange, and remember the orange is going to run up all up this side, across the top, and then down this side as well. So it's not quite as far out as the red. I did want the red kind of to stick out. Good progress, definitely, but I have a week and an extra weekend before this really needs to be in the post. So I am pushing to the deadline, and I really, really would like some clear time to finish it well. That's kind of what I didn't do with one of my other entries, like really give myself a little bit of like a good day at least to finish it well, because I'm going to put this probably on a cardboard backing, and I'm going to have to make sure that it's laced and square. And if I get the chance, I would actually like to put something in these white negative spaces, because I do think that would just lift it, and it will probably be the same pattern across all. It will probably be colour very, very similar to the background, but just looking at it, it just doesn't have the visual appeal that I was expecting it to. So still a way to go. The beige background is definitely going to be the last step, and only if there's plenty of time. So you will have to stick around for the rest of this video to figure out if we get there. am pushing on with this project now. The red's finished, the purple, the green, the pink, except for about 3 stitches, and then I just have to bring that purple around the edge. Gone all the way up one side with the orange. I do have to just bring it down the second side. I did think about starting here, but then I had the risk of running stitches up and the pattern not matching in the top corner, so I decided very much against that. I'll bring the pattern down to it. So I've still got about 7 days, but I do have, you know, financial commitments. So we'll definitely see how far I get with the orange tomorrow, which is Sunday. But I've pretty much had enough today. I've brought the stitches pretty much up from here, probably about here today. So I'm gonna give it a rest and go and work on something else. It's Monday morning and I've managed to finish all the colours with the exception of the orange at the very top, because I'm just not sure how high I want to take it. That's a time question. I have picked out a couple of creams. I think I'm going to go for the one in the middle. This one's a bit yellow, this one's a bit grey. And then over here I'm trying to decide what on earth I'm going to do for the back. I've got brown, I've got curtains, I've got fabric that's a bit grey green, I've got a cream, felt. Today I think I'm just going to focus on getting these inner sections filled and finishing off the orange. I don't have a huge amount of space here, but I have a week to make these stitches and this decision and execute whatever this looks like. I'm on the last stages of preparing this for postage and presentation effectively, and I have been a little bit lax on filming, but I wanted to show you where I'm at. So what I did was I have 2 pieces of felt. I put one in the back, I covered it with this cream, and then I actually put a cream piece inside as well, just because the felt was quite thin so you could see the pink of the binding edge through it. I did the same on the front, so there's a piece of felt behind the cross stitch, and I pretty much just sewed quite close to the edge, probably about a 1/4 inch from each of the edges, and then I've ladder stitched the 2 together. I have just realised that I've actually put my hanging on upside down, so I will need to decide if I fix that or if I just leave it this bit to the top. Anyway, what I came on more to show you is that when I put this together, if you ignore this bit for a moment, it just seemed a bit flat, like the white edge, a bit raw, a bit unfinished. So I played with a few ideas. I thought about doing piping, but piping I haven't done before, and corners and time wasn't really going to work for me. But I have seen people do this corded edge. So this is actually the embroidery floss, and it's the exact length of what I had left, so I would have liked it to be thicker, but I want the collar to be an exact match. And there are heaps of videos on how to make this cordage, basically just twist and twist and twist and twist, and then it twists back on itself. So if you want to make your own cording, go and check that out. And then what I'm doing simply, if you look, you can see there's a tiny stitch here, in here, so there's a stitch there, and what I've done is I bring it from the front and it lies in that twist. It comes in here and then it happens to come out at the front. Because I've finished it on a twist at the back, it starts in that kind of divot and comes through again, and I'm just following those cord lines through around the corner, etc. And I think with that difference, it really just finishes and frames the piece. Like if you compared that now with the finished purple frame versus without, and you'll have to imagine because I have attached this side, it just looks so much more finished, and it adds that, just that presentation element. So I'm glad I have left myself a little bit of time. I still have the weekend till this has to be in the post, so that's actually really quick to put on. It's only like a stitch each time, but yeah, I will have to make a decision about this upside down hanging because it is supposed to go this way. one finished item, and I did move the ribbon so it hangs up properly because otherwise I will never unsee it. I really just didn't like that red at the top. It was too dominating. So this is the finished item. It needs to go into the post today, although by the time you see this it will be there already. We're heading down to the show on Easter Sunday, so I'm off to wait until then to find out how it went. I absolutely love this project. I love the corded edge. If you've got something that needs finishing and you're kind of bored of putting it in a frame, highly recommend making your own cording. The back's very plain, just white, because it's intended to hang. If you've enjoyed this project, go back, check out my Easter show entry video from last year where I made the bookmark, very similar intensity to this. So I'll get this off to the show. This is going in the Modern Embroidery. So if you're down there, make sure to check it out, and I will see you here next week.